Ukraine severs diplomatic ties with Syria over recognition of separatist-controlled areas in Donbas. From CNN's Alexandra Ochman. Ukraine announced Thursday that it has severed diplomatic relations with Syria after Damascus on Wednesday recognized the independence of the pro-Russia separatist-controlled Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine strongly condemns the decision of the Syrian Arab Republic to recognize the so-called independence of the temporarily occupied territories in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of Ukraine, the ministry said in a statement on Thursday. We consider this decision to be an unfriendly act against Ukraine, an encroachment on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of our state, and a gross violation of Ukrainian law, the UN Charter, and the fundamental norms and principles of international law, it added. Syria is the only country aside from Russia to formally recognize the independence of the breakaway regions. In response to this unfriendly act, Ukraine declares the severance of diplomatic relations with Syria without the severance of consular relations, in accordance with Article 2 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations done in Vienna on April 24, 1963. Ukraine's foreign ministry also said, adding that it will impose a trade embargo, as well as other sanctions, on Syria. The U.S. Defense Department is now reviewing 1,300 proposals from 800 companies for innovative new weapons and commercial capabilities they may be able to develop and produce for Ukraine to use in its fight against Russia's invasion, according to a defense official. The Pentagon expects to decide in the coming weeks on which ideas it will pursue, leading to possible eventual production for Ukraine as well as for the U.S. military. The proposals, requested by the department, center around key areas including weapons capabilities for air defense, anti-armor, anti-personnel, coastal defense, anti-tank, unmanned aerial systems, counter-battery, and secure communications, which have been identified by Ukraine as key military needs. The proposals, requested by the department, center around key areas including weapons capabilities for air defense, anti-armor, anti-personnel, coastal defense, anti-tank, unmanned aerial systems, counter-battery, and secure communications, which have been identified by Ukraine as key military needs. They were sought as part of a broad initiative by the Defense Department to fulfill Ukraine's priority security assistance requests, according to the original solicitation for ideas sent to industry. The goal is to get ideas and information in hand in order to accelerate production and build more capacity across the industrial base, as it's now accepted the US and its allies are likely to have to support Ukraine long after its own existing weapons stockpiles run out. This comes as the Pentagon continues its multiple billion-dollar weapons transfers. On Thursday, President Joe Biden said the US will soon announce another $800 million in new aid, including air defense systems and offensive weapons. So far, the US has committed $6.1 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since the February 24 invasion by Russia. The US has been working with more than 50 other nations to see what weapons they can offer. The preference has been for what they have in Russian weapons, because Ukraine's forces are familiar with those systems and would not need training. But as the war has gone on, more advanced weapons have been provided and Ukraine's forces have been trained in nearby countries. The department's plan for potential new production contracts reflects some urgency as it looks for potential deliveries anywhere from less than 30 days to more than 180 days. It is also asking companies to detail what type of air, land, or sea platform their weapon might be deployed on and if they already have something in production. In particular, the department is exploring options which would accelerate production and build more capacity across the industrial base for weapons and equipment that can be rapidly exported, deployed with minimal training, and that are proven effective in the battlefield, the DoD said in its solicitation to industry for ideas. The effort comes as a follow-up to a Pentagon meeting earlier this year with 8 of the largest defense contractors, as well as approval by Congress for funding purchase contracts for weapons in addition to the ongoing drawdown and transfer of systems from the U.S. military stockpile. The Pentagon has put into place a detailed bureaucratic structure to assess Ukraine's needs and try to accelerate supplying them, it said. A new senior integration group of senior officials reviews Ukraine's latest operational needs. The funding could potentially come from the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, which is a pot of nearly $1 billion for contracting for weapons for Ukraine. Nearly $240 million has been contracted for in areas ranging from Switchblade drones to secure communications devices. Satellite images show how Ukraine used drones to target Russian forces on Snake Island from CNN's Paul P. Murphy. For the first several weeks after Snake Island in the Black Sea fell to the Russians on the first day of their invasion into Ukraine on February 24, it was relatively quiet. That all changed on May 2nd, when the Ukrainians began utilizing Bayraktar TB2 drones to target Russian forces and equipment on and near the island. Since then, almost every week, the Ukrainians conducted drone strikes on the island. The strikes have been overwhelmingly successful, knocking out military vehicles, buildings, ships, and even a helicopter. Ukrainian armed forces said Russian troops left the island on Thursday, after they carried out what they said was a successful operation. Meanwhile, Russian army spokesperson Igor Konashenkov said at a briefing that its forces left the island as a gesture of goodwill. The small but strategic territory was the scene of one of the opening salvos of the war in Ukraine, with demands from a Russian warship calling for the Ukrainian defenders to surrender, who boldly replied with Russian warship, "Go F yourself."